Indeed. Thank you, Anne. Happy Easter, everyone. How many of you know what a Freudian slip is? Many of us. How many know what to call an action, which is sort of a Freudian slip, but only in reality? Good, because I don't. I don't have a stole on today because I didn't bring my keys to my office where I keep my stoles. And I think I forgot my keys to the office because I'm going to tell you all what a mess it is. And I Freudian slipped my way into not being able to show anyone that. My office was cluttered in the before time, and we've been stashing things over the pandemic. Now it's a disaster. Gail has offered to help. I'm tickled by that. She's a big Marie Kondo person, I guess, and she invited me to think about what is the mission of that space and how do we want people to feel when they enter it. And then take some time, don't do it immediately, but think on that, and then she'll help me redo the office. I love that. And I was telling some colleagues about it, and they sympathized. Many of their offices are messier now, too. It seems to be a barometer of the limited time and increased stress that everyone feels thanks to the last couple of years. Anecdotal data seems to indicate that congregations everywhere are struggling with the pandemic. Staff and clergy and members and volunteers, not all, but the vast majority. The pandemic thus far seems to be exhausting, emotionally taxing, and withdrawing for people. And my wife will say that anecdotal data is not really data, but the data we have, the studies I've seen back that up. Carey Nieuwhof is a leadership author and podcaster. He's a church planter, fairly famous in the online world. In a recent article, he shares some data indicating that, quote, as many as 1 in 5 people dropped out of church in 2020. In another article, Nieuwhof has statistics that indicate in many churches, in-person attendance is 36% of what it was pre-COVID. Now, like my office, this is not just from the pandemic. The church was struggling and waning before. Membership has been down in almost every tradition. Religion is competing with many other events. There are fewer volunteers that have fewer hours and fewer emotional spoons to give. Family budgets have been stretched and shrunk, so too congregations. Part of declining membership is our aging population. Ann Mannix crunched the numbers and saw that over half of our pledged units are 70 years old or older. Hooray for old folks! And that's consistent with other data that I've seen, church membership and generational cohorts. I'm trying to figure out how to do this with the screen, but anyway, the greatest generation has lots of churchgoers. The silent generation has many, many churchgoers. The baby boomers have fewer churchgoers. Gen X, even fewer. Millennials, even fewer. And Gen Z, well, yeah, we got one here anyway. Church offices were looking shabby in the before times, and the pandemic just made that more evident. Now, the good news for all this is that we and other churches, other traditions, our Unitarian Universalist Association and mainstream congregations of all sorts of traditions have been working on this for decades. We've seen it happening. And the pandemic demonstrated to those congregations who didn't have a problem that they really did need to be working on it. There were groups that said, we don't need to stream our services. We don't have the technology or expertise or volunteers to go online. And then in the space of a couple of weeks, they went online. The fact that many congregations are facing these same issues means that there'll be creative solutions come up with, being tried, being shared. We have a lot of great lab partners to collaborate with. And as Kendall Gibbons reminds us, community rises. Something happens next. That's the other thing we know for sure. Love rises, outrage rises, life rises. Together we can clean up the office, both literally and metaphorically, in our congregation and in our tradition. And like Lazarus's room, it needs more than just a good cleaning. In that first reading, Lazarus's friends told him they'd put his room back the way it was. But his lyre and his dog were gone, and his wife had remarried. Having his room back the way it was before is the least of his concerns. In our second reading, Amanda Gorman preached, "We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be." We cannot return to the ways which were failing before. We must press on to create a congregation that nourishes, challenges, and inspires the people, the families, the concern, and the lifestyles of today. Carey Nieuwhof, the guy with the statistics before, has some ideas about how to do this. I'll focus on his main four. His most important point is mission. Just like Gail DeSomer and Marie Kondo, we need to know what our mission is and focus on that. Lots of people can find content, lots of people can find entertainment on the interwebs. What they can't find is this mission to connect people and make them feel life. That's what we need to be doing. We have talked about working on our mission and vision sometime in 2022, and be good to each other and the world. It'll be a variation of that, right? But it'll be specific. What communities in this region, in this year, face what challenges that energize us the most? How can we energize ourselves in our life? I'll elaborate a little more on that in a moment. Now, I've said a couple times that the pandemic has been hard on congregations, but not all of them. And one of them is one that my friend Jenny serves in Pocatello, Idaho. They aren't experiencing any malaise. There's no burnout there. And I asked her why. It's about their living out their mission. Just as the pandemic began, they had started to find a new space and move to it and renovate it and expand their voice in the community. They've had little or no drop-off in attendance or enthusiasm. Not a single lay leader has reported any burnout because they are deeply engaged in their mission in the world. Mission can save us. The next thing on Carey Nieuwhof's list is community and connection, especially for newcomers. Making people feel connected, actually connecting with them. Getting out of our comfort zone is where we encounter God most frequently. It is so easy to come to the congregation and see your old friends and fall into habits of comfort. And we need to help other people feel as connected as we already do. His third point is church online. Maintain your virtual gatherings of all type. According to his statistics, 71% of baby boomers say they want primarily in-person church attendance after COVID. Gen Z, only 41% prefer primarily physical gatherings. That's a 30-point gap. We want to serve all of those human beings. Everyone deserves church. The people who want to be here in person and the people who want to be out on First Zuumitarian. I need to expand my participation with First Zuumitarian. When I was preaching from my dining room, I could be on Zoom. I could be chatting with people immediately. I could hang out in the chat afterwards. I haven't done that since I started from the pulpit again. I love being in the pulpit. I'm really glad to see everyone's faces here. I miss the people out in First Zuumitarian. I want to find ways to engage them. Maybe I ask questions right now and you all respond back. Maybe we have some other way of doing that. Maybe I spend one Sunday a month in the chat rooms afterwards. I welcome your suggestions. I welcome your suggestions on how to do this better. Again, there are some congregations that are doing this better and some that are much worse. I have a friend who I will not name for keeping the congregation anonymous. Their system is remarkably complicated, a Byzantine thing that includes a cassette tape recorder still. 3 people in the whole congregation know how to use it. They're not going to train anybody else because they're happy being the ones in control. The new minister has been there pushing for a new system for 8 months. They don't even have a quote from a vendor, yes, much less 2. I am so grateful to the amazing people who have put together our system, that share their knowledge, that want to help us be in the world better and online. And my dear friend Leslie Takahashi serves the Mount Diablo UU Church in California. She gets 350 people in person and another 350 online. They have 10 or more meetings each week that are in person and online. They've got some paid people doing that for sure, but they have used this time to really, really learn how to do online church well. It can be done. We can learn from them. I am hopeful about that. Carrie Nieuwhoff's 4th point is agility. We need to be flexible and keep innovating. Focus on the mission, not on the method used to achieve it. I'll leave that. You've heard that from people before, I'm sure. The thing is to speak about mission. Hunger for meaning is still present in our world, present in our hearts. We have a need for purpose, for a life of value. Václav Havel said, "In everyone there is some longing for humanity's rightful dignity, for moral integrity, for free expression of being." That same hunger for meaning still exists in every human heart. We want to continue to feel it and satisfy it and bring it here. And I think the new approach is, rather than seeking it directly for ourselves, we work hard at helping others find it and thereby achieve it for all. Thinking of our stepped-up welcoming and connecting of newcomers, and a similar focus on families with young children. The best way to grow a congregation is to prioritize families with young children in everything. Yes, we still serve our older generations, our longer-term members, but remember what it's like to have little kids, and it's much harder now. This is really our mission, in my opinion. We'll figure it out if the congregation agrees with me. One thing I really particularly enjoy is our new dream team, religious education and mindfulness. Some of you may have gotten an email about this recently. Rather than having one person who is the coordinator for religious education, we'll have a team of people taking on these tasks, inviting everyone to participate, not as an obligation, but as an opportunity to meet each other and our families and create the feeling of God in and among us. There's way more about religious education. I'm super excited about this. Ask Becky Lindstrom or me, and I'll certainly preach more about it later. The final thing, of course, in our mission is living our values in the world. Faith in St. Joseph County has been doing impactful work in our community. I've been doing this a long time. Most of my social justice preaching these days is encouraging people to do something to make incremental progress in our world. This is a rare chance for significant change. Last year, we sent a dozen people to the big Faith in St. Joe County gathering. We helped get a crisis response center so people who are picked up by the police are not put in handcuffs and in jail, but rather taken somewhere where they can relax and calm down and get help for what they need. Next Sunday afternoon, we want to get 15 people to go attend a rally at Berean Seventh-day Adventist to lock in funding for that center for the foreseeable future. This is a huge change affecting real people in our community. What an opportunity. Please join us next Sunday. So to recap, our congregation fortunately is not in decline. We are blessed with many active, generous people, but we are not immune to the trends which are endangering other congregations and entire traditions. Let us discern and embrace our mission, which I hope will include redoubling our efforts to welcome and connect newcomers and taking as a central focus the prioritization and support of families with young children. Solidify and expand our online presence, continue our active participation in Faith in St. Joe County and other local causes. That sounds like a lot, right? Let me crystallize it for us. It's remembering to meet people where they are and not leave them there, but to love them into wholeness, such that love is always the last word. On Easter Sunday and on every day, our words and our deeds demonstrate that love has the last word. And that's how the stone of COVID gets rolled away from the tomb of 21st century consumerism, and the spirit of life and congregational vitality and God comes shining out as a beacon to all people. So may we be.